Hi, my name is Mike, and I thought I'd share how I make pickle rigs. I've been making these for well over 25 years, and I find them more effective, cheaper to make than to buy, and with hooks that are better quality and better hook sets. So the way I make them, I like to use a heavier gauge, 20 pound to 25 pound. Today we'll be using trialing big game, 20-pound test. You'll also need some a blade. Some people like colored blades, some kind of willow blades, just whatever blades you prefer. I use the cheapest ones I can get. I think these are usually average out to about 10 cents a blade. These are just a plain Jane blades. I like to use snap swivels, and I'll explain to why I use snap swivels later rather than just a barrel swivel. And then I use small hooks. Today I'll be using some Mustad number 4s. There's a reference number there on the package of 92641. And for my stinger hooks, I like to use the Mustad's number 4 beak hooks for my stinger hooks. So, and then you also need some beads. I got this whole package of beads from Amazon for under $10. You can buy beads at tackle shops, and they're usually like 10 times more expensive. And I find these very effective. These are for arts and crafts, but they work fantastic for pickle rigs. They have some type of iridescence on them as well. They're multifaceted, which I find reflects more light than the plain Jane colored beads. You'll also need these saddles for your blades. You can get those at the tackle shops as well. So let's get started. So the first thing you do is you take your line. I keep it inside the package and I just pull off as I need. So, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm making this with the camera in front of me. So you always start with your stinger hook. So the stinger hook you hold in your finger so that it's facing, the loop is facing away from you. And you'll notice I'm coming from the bottom of the hook through the eye of the hook, and I'm pulling forward. So now some people like short rigs. I like my rigs to be about a meter long, or a yard if you're an American. And so I pull out about a yard past the hook, and then so to tie your knot, you basically see how the line is following the shaft of the hook. You just hold them both together at the same time, and then you have to loop your line around the shaft. And I do it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for good luck. Now, once I try to keep it tight, so then I'll hook the line with my now I'm holding the line with my thumb so that it doesn't unravel. And I find the tag end of my line, and I push it through the eye again. Like I said, it's difficult with the camera in front of me, but I'm doing the best I can here. So then, you see now, as I pull this tight, I kind of push it forward so that it's tight up against the loop. I've got my first hook tied off, a snelled hook, and then I'm ready for my second hook. I only use 2 hooks, but you can use this technique to tie as many hooks as you want. I've seen people have some pickle rigs that have 3 hooks on them if they want to get really, they want a lot of hooks on their worms, I guess. I've always only used 2. All right, so now I slide the hook forward, and basically you can decide where you want your second hook tied off. So if you're using minnows and you want them close together, so you'll have one through the head of the minnow and the second one in the tail of the minnow. Or if you're using dew worms, you might want them a little further apart. I prefer about this distance, because I only always use half a worm. Some people like to use full worms. I discovered a long time ago that half worms are just as effective as a full worm. So then I repeat the procedure. Grab the shaft of the hook and I start wrapping again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold the line again. Come through the eye of the hook. And bingo. And I've got both my hooks tied off. All right, and you'll notice that sometimes they'll be perfectly lined up, but it doesn't really matter. You put your, so in this case they ended up one facing up, one facing down. Makes no difference to the fish. Okay, next step. You pick whatever bead colors you want. Some guys are really adamant about the colors they want to use. I'm fishing dark waters. I've tried all kinds of combinations, different colors. You know what? I don't really think it makes that much of a difference because you're fishing dark water and the fish are coming to the action of the lure and the scent of the bait to more than the color of the bead, in my opinion. I may be totally wrong, but that's my opinion. Next phase is you grab a saddle, attach your blade. To attach your blade, now make sure when you put your blade on that it's facing the right direction. All right, now these saddles are, I'm using them today. I've also made rigs without the saddle, just simply putting the blade right on the line. I have them today, so I'm using them. But if you're using heavy gauge line, that abrasion of that blade spinning on the line, if your line is thick enough and is resistant to scuffing, you should be okay without that little saddle. Like I said, I've made hundreds and hundreds of these without the saddle, and they work just fine. Next phase is the barrel swivel. Sorry, not the barrel swivel. This is a snap swivel, and you can use a barrel swivel and tie directly onto the barrel swivel. I use a snap swivel, but I'll explain why later. Okay, so then for tying it off, I'm just using a very simple cinch knot. You know, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 times around. Okay, take your tag in. Most very basic knot. Most anglers know how to tie this knot. And then I always wet a little bit of saliva on there before you cinch it tight. Okay, so now it's tight. Now you'll notice you have that little bit of line that's kind of sticking out. I like to trim it nice and neat so that that little piece of line doesn't end up creating spin in the water that I don't want. So there you go. There's the first rigs made. You got your barrel swivel, and about 1.5 feet back. I've got my blade, my first hook, and my second little stinger hook. Now you'll notice that these hooks are small, and the ones you buy, I find the hooks are way too big, and I prefer these small hooks. They go inside the worm without going through to the other side. They don't affect the movement of the bait in the water as much as those big heavy worms on the line, on these rigs that you buy at the store. And I prefer small hooks. If you want to make them with bigger hooks, for whatever you want, but that's what I use. Okay, now this is something that I developed myself about 20 years ago, and I don't know why more people don't do this, so maybe if I post this video, some people will. This is a $1.99 pool noodle that I've cut down to about 1 foot long. You'll notice I've already got 4 tied into this already. I cut paper clips. I prefer the paper clips that are, where's my camera gone here? Here it is. I use a plastic coated paper clips so they don't rust. And I cut them off so that they're nice and about this long. And When I store them, I just put them on the end. So now that I've got my rig made, I take my good old pool noodle, and I line up where I want to put the hooks into it. And you'll notice how easy they come in and out. This is pop in there, and they don't come out unless you take them out. And you put your second hook in, and then you just wrap. Now they sell some at the store that they use Velcros and all kinds of weird things, and this one is super cheap, and it floats if you drop it in the water, and your hooks never come out of there unless you want them to come out of there. So then you take your piece of, I have the barrel swivel, and I put it into my snap swivel. Sorry, the paper clip, and I just tie it into the snap swivel. Now the reason I use snap swivels is because when you're pickerel fishing, you often get snagged up on rocks, and you break off or you break a line. Because I use a heavy-duty braided line, most of the time what breaks off is the pickerel rig, not the braided line. And what I do is I just make a loop at the end of my braided line, and it's very simple to make a loop. You just tie a loop so that you have a loop available to you. And then basically every time you want to put a rig on, you just open up your snap swivel and put it in your loop. And let's say this is my loop. And then you tie off, you're ready to go. Now, if you want to tie off every single time, you can just use a barrel swivel and instead of a snap swivel, and then you're just tying off your braided line to your barrel swivel. Anyway, these are two things that I've been doing. I've been making my own rigs for years, and I've been using this pool noodle for years. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy fishing.